Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 8, season 5 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. You can catch us live every Wednesday on Facebook and YouTube throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, what a weekend of football. 2 Golden Point matches, including the Warriors-Eagles clash that went the distance and stressed me out. Plus some big news we had today, which we're going to discuss. First of all, how are you and what do you think of the round?
Well, yeah, I'm very, very happy guy. After the news this afternoon, but yeah, it was a good round of footy as well, and we were very lucky to come out with a point. But you take that after the start we had, and yeah, how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. That game, we'll talk about it when we review the game, but that game was a wide range of emotions.
Yes.
Sitting there in the crowd, the weather couldn't decide if it was going to rain or be sunny. And it looked like they were on one step away from getting a flogging, which I really didn't want to see. And then that fight back. And it was kind of nice to be on the other end of what we had to witness when the Warriors played the Storm. And they had that, come back at the end. And yeah, I think I was telling you and Ruin Hammer, like with 5 minutes to go, a huge stack of the crowd left doing the Warriors shuffle. that we all know and love. And they missed out on 15 minutes of pretty edgy seat footy. So looking forward to talking about that. But while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio and Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was Rugby League, including our top stories of the week, a review of the round 6 matches. We'll then answer some questions from you guys as well as some questions we've got for each other. We'll then preview round 7 and discuss who we're picking before ending a night with a recap of the Super League, or should I say Challenge Cup last weekend. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we may as well jump into the top stories of the week, Richie.
Please do. I've never looked forward to a news section so much.
Yeah, well, the first bit of news won't be on your show notes that I gave you because they weren't ready yet. Well, this news didn't come out yet, but the Warriors have announced that they have signed James Fisher-Harris on a 4-year deal from 2025 after the Panthers released him due to compassionate grounds. I have read a little article from I think it was the Sydney Morning Herald, that one of my group chats had sent us because it's a pay-to-view one. And it said basically it took 72 hours to get the job done. It was kind of brought up on Sunday. Cameron George was over doing the deal today in Sydney, which is probably one reason why we didn't hear a lot of rumors about it, because it was very quick. Apparently, the idea of coming back to New Zealand has been something Fisher-Harris has had on his mind for a while, but it never really came into fruition until this week. But what's your takes on another hyphenated player joining the club?
Amazing, yeah. Obviously AFB leaving. There's been that concern. How are we going to fill that hole? Seeing our depth tested over the first few rounds of the year, I think we spoke about it a couple of episodes ago that maybe AFB leaving won't be such a disaster. Not a disaster at all now. Filling that hole with James Fisher-Harris, Kiwis captain, big game player, 3 premierships. You were saying just before we came on air how he seems to step up in big games. He's the exact type of character we need if we want our premiership window to remain open for a wee while longer. And yeah, I've been smiling all afternoon.
Yeah, and I said to you and Paul before we went live, I just saw it on YouTube before I jumped on, but there was a discussion with Andrew Johns and Fitler, because it was breaking news and they discussed it, and they were talking about Leo Thompson, my prime target for the Warriors. Still time, but he got to camp. He had to share a room with Fisher Harris for the Kiwis camp, and the attitude change after just spending that time with Fisher Harris has shown improvements in him as a player. And just thinking about all those young guys, your Jacob Labens, your Zions, Sifakula, having a guy like that in your club to help them develop only bodes well for the future of the club. But yeah, very, very happy. Props are my forte. They're what I like. And I was really upset that Adam was going. He's one of my favorites. But yeah, it's very quick to jump ship and go, okay, James Fisher Harris is my new favorite. So yeah, but yeah, very fantastic. We talked a lot when
He's
the
not even
news.
here yet. Let him arrive.
He's Kiwis captain. He's always got a place in my heart, Paul. Yeah, when we were discussing the options to replace Adam Fanua-Blake, I didn't have Fisher Harris on my list because his deal was going over, and he kind of felt like a pipe dream that you wouldn't be able to get a player like him to leave a team like the Panthers, where he's a cornerstone of that forward pack. And yeah, to actually be able to sit here and say that we've managed to pick him up, it's quite surreal. Very, 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 very happy. It's the most clinical way I can say that. But
yeah, he would be top of your list if you could have
if he was
anybody.
free.
He'd be right up there. Him, Payne Haas. But yeah, he's in the top tier of players that you'd want to bring, and somehow we've landed him.
And thank you to the Warriors for releasing it before our show and not like half an hour after our show.
Yeah.
I actually said that on Twitter today, Paul. I said normally these announcements come either straight after our show or the Thursday. So to have it, in the afternoon on a Wednesday was perfect timing for us. So yeah, thank you. Cameron George must be getting my messages, trying to think about us rather than the club for a little bit. But yeah, very happy with that, and still a long way away. There's still a lot of work for the Warriors to do to hopefully go the distance this year. So it's a nice little cherry on top at the end of this year, whatever it may bring. So we'll move on. We're sticking with the Warriors for a little bit though. They have announced that they have applied to go to Las Vegas in 2025. Although Cameron George has stated that they have requested to be only going as an away team instead of taking a home game to Las Vegas, which potentially could derail their chance. There might not be a lot of teams that want to take a home game away, and they're always used to the Warriors being the ones that do it. But what are you taking? What's your thoughts on them potentially being a Vegas team in 2025? I'm still a bit iffy. If you look at the teams that went to Vegas and where they are on the ladder at the moment, they're not all doing well. But one, I guess they're all doing okay, bar one.
Yeah.
That's kind of been a bit mean. And Simon said he's guessing the majority of teams want to be away. Yeah, I guess. You don't want to lose a home game for your supporters at home. Generally, I'm not sure how much money you get as being a home team in Vegas. It's obviously not enough to encourage the Warriors to want to do it. But
I'm good with it. I'm good with Cam George's stance there. I mean, it'd be a cool thing, but I wouldn't want to take a home game there. Normally that is us in that situation. I don't know whose home game is it. Magic Round this year, because normally that's us.
Yeah, we got a home game at Magic Round as well.
Yeah. There you go. So, it would be cool if we were the away team and got to go there, but I like that from Cam George. If it's going to be a home game, then bugger it. Rather go to Mount Smart. Yeah,
and Jacko said, let's win a premiership, then go to Vegas, wherever you like. Yeah, I think two things change my opinion on it. It's if they win this year, if they win the whole thing, I don't care what they do. And two, I can't afford to go. So it's probably a bit of poor man bias where I'm like, I don't want them to go if I can't go. But I'm sure we'll get some announcements. They're going to have to do it sooner rather than later to let teams and the fan base prepare to actually go. It's a serious chunk of change. So I'm sure there'll be an announcement, at least I'd say by the midpoint of the season. So we'll just have to wait and see for that. But we'll move on. This is a big chunk. It's all about Ricky and Des, basically. So Ricky Stewart and Des Hasler had a little war words in the press. Wasn't too major. Hasler came out in the press conference after his team's loss, saying that he thought the Raiders had the rub of the green with the referees. And then Ricky responded to that when asked and said that he thought Des was on another planet and that the Titans were cheating all over the park. Adding on to that, Graham Ellerslie has come out and said that the Titans should have been awarded a penalty for Chevy Stewart being offside, which could have technically given them the winning golden point. And then he also went out even further and dug into the game and said that the Titans could have been penalized an extra 28 times and the Raiders an extra 10, meaning 38 extra penalties that could have been given in that game that were let slip, which has seen the demotion of Casey Badger, who was the official of the game. She will now act as the touch judge in the Dragons-Warriors game on Friday and will be in the bunker for the Broncos-Raiders game. So what's your take? I disagree. I think Simon said Graham's wrong this time. I think the 38 extra penalties, I think if you did it by the letter, that might be true, but then everyone would be complaining about the referee on that. It's a lose-lose situation for Casey Badger there. You try to let it be more free-flowing. You're complained about. You pull up every single penalty you see, which I guess is what you should be doing. But then, 38 extra stoppages in that game would really have just been a nightmare to watch.
Mate, come Origin time, the referees put their whistle away and everyone hails the referee as a hero for how free-flowing the game is.
Yeah, and they usually have it slightly in the pocket in golden point.
Yeah.
Look,
Paul,
we have this point in rugby union as well where people complain about refs, but at the end of the day, if the referees blew everything every game, the players would stop doing penalty actions, right? They learn to adapt to the whistle. The problem is when you have it inconsistent, where it gets blown, everything gets blown in one game, and the next game it's allowed to flow. Whatever you've got to choose one way of doing it and doing it across all the games. If you try and apply it in one game, it creates a disaster. But it's got to be consistent one way or the other.
Yeah, and in regards to Mark Roberts has said that and he went through and picked at the game and tried to shut both the coaches up by saying actually there was a lot. But in regards to Ricky saying that the Titans were cheating, all players cheat. You're doing what you can to try to wrestle the advantage your way. Some of the best.
So the man with experience.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I could never put myself in the level of these guys because they've got video cameras watching them. So everything they do is seen, and I would be seen doing things I shouldn't and never get to bloody play. But yeah, every team toes that line, right? So
yeah,
in essence, what he's saying is the Titans were towing the line and succeeding because they got away with 28 penalties that they didn't get pinged on.
And Ricky knows that. This is just Ricky in press conferences, and I hope he never changes because it's amazing viewing.
Oh yeah, it's entertainment, which we come to expect with a Ricky interview. But I don't think there was much in it. I don't think there's been any fines from what I could see for them because they were kind of throwing barbs at each other instead of the officials. Well, Des kind of was saying the officials were bad, but Ricky said, no, the Titans are cheats, and I thought Casey Badger did a great job. So he kind of covered himself, saying the officials were perfect, but that other team.
Did you say that 28 penalties were missed?
20 not blowing. That's what Graham Ellerslie came out. So he said 28.
There were
28 times.
There are a total of 8 penalties blown in this game, and you're trying to say that, or what, three times more, or 3 times more of those. There should be 4 times as much whistle.
Yeah, Graham Ellerslie said another 38.
Strung up
Another
and
38
murdered.
were missed. Oh, yeah, 100%.
So 38 were missed.
38 were missed. That was only 28 against the Titans.
Oh, okay. So there were 8 in total that were blown. If you had another
Yeah.
38 whistles onto that, I'd say she would have been absolutely murdered for blowing those.
I can't even remember. I'm trying to think back of that Roosters game last year where half the team got sent to the bin. I don't even think there were that many penalties.
Annesley coming out and stating 38 extra penalties could have been given to the press. Who does that help?
It helps nobody. That's kind of him showing that he's saying that his refs aren't good enough. So yeah, it's a lose-lose situation for him too. He's
So
kind of
the head of referees came out and said 38 could have been blown.
Yeah.
My God. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's you can't come out and say that.
Yeah, and Simon said that helps rugby league journalists write stories because it was letting us talk in. Yeah, Mark Roberts said as well. Quite a few of them would have been 6 against though. That's true. So it wouldn't have been a stop-start because a lot of them would have been 6 against. But yeah, before I move on, I'll just say at the game I was at, the Warriors game, Chris Butler, lovely guy. The amount of times that Manly were offside was shocking. The amount of times he could have pinged them, but they weren't. They were literally half a foot in front of him. I'm sorry. I'm just saying that was one where I could watch, and you see. So it was. It's just not Badger that should have been looked at. But I think if Graham Ellerslie actually watched every game with under a microscope like he did that one, he could probably pull out some crazy stats about calls that were missed, which I guess in behind the scenes should be what he's doing anyway. So he can go to the refs and say, look at all this that you missed. We need to work on that. But
yeah, behind the scenes.
Instead, he wants to do it for one game and pull it out for the media.
Make it public. Yeah.
Make it public. Yeah. Not a wise move, but we'll move on. Josh Schuster, we talked about him last week. He has come out and said he's going to fight his way back into the NRL. There's been rumors that his agent shopped him out to every other NRL team, bar Manly, and has not received any interest at all. Which, isn't too surprising. There has been talks this week that they are ready to just rip up his contract and tell him to leave now. They've disputed that, but they have said that they've given him 2 weeks off. Get his mind right. It's weird to give a guy that hasn't played first grade this year yet some time off, but I guess that is better for them than letting him have a game to try to show that he's still capable of performing. But what's your take on Schuster? I thought there might have been 1 or 2 teams that might be interested. I don't know if it's the stigma he's currently got on him as a player, or if it's the money that he's on, or a combination of the both. But
definitely a combination, I think. The way I see it, just from my amateur, viewpoint, he doesn't come across as the hardest worker, and he's had a lot of time off, injury, sickness, and he's on massive coin. So I think all that adds up to, the fact that he hasn't received a lot of interest. But yeah, you're right. I kind of thought maybe there'd at least be 1 or 2 clubs that may have been desperate enough to fill a hole and saw it as an option. But yeah.
Yeah, I said it last week. He's kind of like the Latrell Mitchell of the forwards, where there's talent there, but there's a lot of baggage that you have to try to wade through to get that talent out. We'll see. I'm sure there's plenty of time. It'll be a lot harder for him if the rumors are true and Manly cut his contract and put him out into the wild straight away, because he doesn't really get a chance to show that he's still got it. Guess worst case scenario, he goes to Super League and plays there. But we'll just keep with the story when we get little bits of information. So we'll move on. Jason Demetrio, fire watch is still on. He's still got a job. He's earned a stay of execution for now, but he has got some help with the Rabbitohs signing Dave Furner as their defensive coach. So I had to update it because they announced it today, but there were rumors that they were bringing him in to kind of help support Jason Demetrio, which kind of looks more like they're going to try to persevere with him, unless they've decided Fern is going to be a good interim coach and they're kind of getting him in the wings ready to go. I'm not sure, but I think we'll talk about it when we get into the game. I thought the Rabbitohs showed a bit more fight last week, potentially with Latrell out not being there. Maybe the team played more as a unit. Speculating here. But yeah, I thought they looked a lot better, so maybe it's a sign that they're going to slowly try to improve, and that might keep him around, at least for the time being. But what's your takes on JD keeping the job and getting some help?
Yeah, I like it purely for selfish reasons. I get enough preseason predictions wrong, so I kind of want him to
we're trying to keep his job.
And, yeah. But I mean, who you cut him off now? Who's he going to be replaced with? But at the same time, the results have not been great now since mid last year. So eventually, the results are going to make it very hard to keep your job if they continue the trend that they've been on. But yeah, who do you replace him with? That's the big thing.
Yeah, and I forgot to put it in here, but Mal Meninga's withdrawn his intent to take that interim job if it was available. There was a bit of noise that the Kangaroos basically told him if he took that job, he would have to give up being the Kangaroos coach. So it's kind of makes sense that you wouldn't take up a part-time job to look after the Rabbitohs for the rest of the year and give up the cushy job of coaching the Kangaroos once every couple of years, would have been stupid for him to give it up. So yeah, that might have helped keep JD alive. But last bit of news before we get into signings, Paul, I gave you some pictures. The Warriors announced their Anzac jersey. There was a question a few weeks ago asking us, would the Warriors have an Anzac jersey? And we said we're not sure. We thought if they would, we would have heard about it more. Heard nothing about it till this week. And Paul has brought up the picture for us. For those listening and not watching, that's not helpful. But go to Facebook and you'll see the picture everywhere. What's your take on it, Richie? I know we've had a bit of discussions about it.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. I know you think it's a little busy. I'm pretty sure that was your opinion. And it probably is, but I like it. I don't know whether I'd fork out hard-earned dollars for it versus maybe I think the heritage jersey we brought out's sort of top of the tree, but yeah, I think it's quite good.
Yeah, like I said it to you, I felt it's a little bit too busy for me. I don't mind it, but yeah, I'm not buying it. I've got the greatest jersey we ever had behind us in the picnic blanket, so I'm already at the top tier. And in my budget, I can't buy every jersey like some of our very passionate Warriors fans can. So I use my money on the heritage jersey, which is also behind me, which I love to bits. So I'm happy with my choice. But yeah, I like it. I saw Simon said it's a very patriotic looking jersey. That is kind of the intention with it being the Anzac jersey. And kind of brings you back to remember the old flag one they did in, I think it was 2011. So it brings all those like feelings of, 2011, we had the flag jersey, we went to the GF. Is this an omen? We get it back.
I love seeing Aussie boys, Egan and Capewell modeling
wearing a New Zealand jersey. Yeah,
it was good.
It does look like kind of, okay, folks, what What's that day about? Well, it's about dawn services. Make sure there's a dawn sunrise. We've got our flag on there. We've got some crosses for people who die. We've got to put the fern on there. Get some poppies on. Right, let's make sure we've got all the symbols on there, guys. Let's just make sure. And yeah, I'm with Brad here. It's a bit too busy. It's a bit too much going on there. So yeah, you could have perhaps a little bit calmer, maybe. But I guess sometimes you're on the pitch. It's about kind of making bold statements. And it kind of does that, but yeah, it's got all the things there on it, hasn't it?
Yeah. As long as we win wearing
it. Yeah. And Simon said it's interesting in some countries they're not allowed their flag to be used like that. Yeah. I know. Yeah, there's a few. I know America don't really like it, but you see the American stars and stripes on bloody everything in terms of clothing. So I'm never really sure. And us Kiwis are a bit more relaxed. And yeah, Millie said, as a Canberra fan, even though it's busy, she loves the silver fern at the front. Yeah, and the stars we always have on our jersey anyway. It's on the back for the Southern Cross. But yeah, I don't mind. It's each to their own. I just don't like too much noise. For me, but yeah, we'll be looking forward to watching them wear it on that Anzac game. So that was it for the news section. So we'll go into signings. We've already talked about the big one, so we don't need to cover that again. But Zach Lomax from the Dragons. There was the Willie Woney. He's now officially signed a 4-year deal to join the Eels from next year. What's your take on Zach Lomax? One of the better wingers around at the moment, going to the Eels so he can be a centre again.
Well, that is another big one. Wasn't the biggest secret around. I think a lot of people were expecting it. Yeah, it's good for the Eels. They need some depth in their back five, and weren't they just crying out for some X factor in their backs over the past year or two? Lomax has been playing really well so far this year. I think it's a good signing. I think he looks really good on the wing. I don't know why. I don't know if that's actually a thing or if that's just been a bit of talk. But yeah.
Right. So the question. Spoilers for later on. He's playing in the centres this week against the Warriors. Do the Eels rip up the contract when he gets absolutely humbled as a centre?
Why would he get humbled as a centre?
Because he's not going to have a chance against the Warriors in centres, is he?
Well,
I've just put them this weekend. Yeah.
Don't jinx it, Brad.
Yeah, I've just jinxed it. I can feel it now. You watch. He's gonna rip us apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, good that they've got it out of the way now. You know, there's not all the talk in the media about is he going to go? Is he? You know, it's all done. They can focus. Dragons can focus on, milking all the talent out of him they can. And the Eels can prepare for him next year. Next bit of news, I saw Christopher kind of mentioned it already, but Joey Manu from the Roosters, he's confirmed that he is going to leave the club at the end of the year to join the Japanese rugby club Toyota Verblitz, which Paul might jump in. I believe that's where Fozzie's coaching.
And Aaron Smith's playing there as well.
Yeah, well, Fozzie's joining as a coach.
Coaching. He's not quite there yet, but next season he's coaching them. And Aaron Smith is there as well. Yeah, look, this was a real strange one for me because why is he going? Is he trying to be? He's not going to become an All Black. Yeah, this screams money, doesn't it? He's gone purely for money. This isn't about legacy. This isn't about how you're going to be remembered or how many rings or how many cup championships you're going to get. It's and look, if that's what his if it's purely a job for him rather than a look, I want to have these accolades as well on the wall, then go for it. But if you want accolades on the wall, what the hell are you doing? Basically.
Well, he's already got a hell of a lot of accolades, and to be honest, I don't see the Roosters winning a grand final in the next few years anyway, with the Panthers and that all around. So go make that money while you can. He wanted to be a fullback, and he's not going to be a fullback. We'll talk about it in their game. He got to play fullback in the week and absolutely crushed it. But he's also come out and said he doesn't want to play against the Roosters in the NRL. So it's kind of stay with the Roosters where you are, or go and play either in the Super League where he would be wasted, or he'll go for this contract in Japan, then come back to the Roosters. By then Teddy will be gone. He'll be their fullback. And he's made a bit of change.
You're not a footy player for a long time either, are you? So I suppose if a good contract comes along and you can go experience another culture, could be a pretty big driver for you.
Yeah, and Christmas said it's only a 1 year deal. Yeah, go make your squillions, then come back. Yeah, it's kind of like the All Blacks and their sabbaticals, right?
Yeah, sure. But as far as an All Black goes, it comes down to how do you perform every 4 years for the Rugby World Cup. So you can disappear and come back, and doesn't quite impact your kind of legacy the same way. I think just for NRL, it's a bit different, isn't it? It's not about World Cups so much in league. So that's why I just found it a bit strange. Look, good holiday for Manu, change of scenery and culture. Look, I mean, it's definitely going to be a lot less attritional than NRL. Let's be honest. So, fitness will be a big thing though. So look, it's not easy. You're not going on holiday. You are going there to work, but you're not going to get bashed around. So it could be a good season, obviously, to look after his body from that point of view, as well. And yeah, clearly the culture side of things is kind of cool. But it just seems like a strange one. It's not one you kind of see in league, going off and do something else for 1 year and come back. You kind of do in union. So he's breaking new ground. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah. And then we had two more signings, Richie. The Dragons have signed Fa'amu Brown for the remainder of this season after he's returned from playing for Hull FC. And the Raiders have extended Ethan Strange until the end of 2028, which I think is the bigger deal, because he's a talented youngster that I'm sure a lot of people were ready to come in and swoop and steal him from the Raiders. So to see him stick with the Raiders is a really good sign for them. And Fa'amu Brown, he's all right. He's gone to the Dragons. There's not much he can really do to help them. But yeah, I think he's already on the extended bench for this week as well. Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, I'm more excited for Ethan Strange than anything else out of that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So move to injuries. Again, just like last week, there's too many injuries to count. So I've kind of grabbed the big ones, in my opinion. So if I've missed someone that you're really into, I'm sorry. But Jazz Tavanga from the Warriors, he injured his hamstring. He's going to be out for 4 to 8 weeks, which is a massive blow to the front rotation of forwards for the Warriors. What's your take on Jazzy?
Yeah, it's a bummer. Obviously, he didn't have the greatest game last week, and then he was looking for a bounce back game this week. Scored a try, and then pretty much the hit up after hurt his leg. So yeah, I gutted for Jazzy. I like Jazzy and the attitude he brings to the game. Yeah, it's the kind of team you don't want to give up a spot for too long. Places are tough to come by now with our depth, so I just wish him well with his recovery. Hope he comes back strong.
Yeah, very disappointed for him, and yeah, hopefully he comes back. He's fighting for a contract, so he really didn't need this, but yeah, hopefully he comes back stronger than ever. Next one was Zach Hosking from the Raiders, dislocated his shoulder, and he could be out for 5 to 6 weeks as well. Big loss for them. I thought he's been playing really well.
He has been, yeah. It is a loss. I thought at the start of the season when Whitehead was out, he's playing outstanding, but yeah, it's a bit of a loss there. He looked in a fair bit of pain when it happened too. So again, hope he recovers nice and quick.
Yeah, and Millie said, with all due respect, Brad, you can't afford a trip to Las Vegas or the latest Warriors jersey. Is it 2-minute noodles for every meal at a house or something? It's it's not far off that. Cost of living's hard, man. This is where I live right here. If I didn't buy all that crap in the past, maybe I'd have a house already, Paul. But yeah, it's more about it's not a cheap trip to Las Vegas. But yeah, the jersey I could do, but I'm just not willing to spend that much money on the jersey. Next one, Jaden Campbell. He's just come back from injury, Richie, for the Titans. He's injured his knee again, and they reckon he could be out for another 6 weeks. Massive loss for the Titans when they kind of need his spark, as we've seen when he came back.
Yeah, the positive out of it is I think maybe Brimson will be moved to fullback and not be, they won't muck around with him in the centres.
In saying that, though, I think they have still named him in the centres this week.
Well, I did see that, and I was hoping they wouldn't. They've got to move Brimson out of there. they
got Philip Sami. They got Philip Sami at fullback. Looking on the website. Brimson's in 5'8".
Yeah, well, that's fine as long as he's not out there in centres.
Not in the centres.
When the Titans have been going well this year, it's when he's had to move out of the centres for whatever reason.
Yeah,
getting his hands on the ball more.
Yeah, exactly. And then last two were the Dolphins. Herbie Farnworth is out for a month with a shoulder injury, and the Hammer got a hamstring injury for 3 to 4 weeks. Cruelly, he did his hamstring in a play that he didn't need to do because there was a penalty called and they had ran the length of the field and he was chasing. Did his hammy. That's a big blow. Herbie is a big blow, but losing the Hammer as well. One, he's in my fantasy team, so that really hurt me. And two, that's another strike weapon there. Well, probably their biggest strike weapon. Massive outs for the Dolphins, which has always been our concern since they came into the league, was these injuries, how it can kind of derail their campaign.
Yeah, depth test time for the Dolphins now, just like last year. Let's see how far they've come.
Yeah, and then before we move on to Naughty Boys, we had 2 failed HIAs, Satili Tupanua from the Roosters and Jack Bird from the Dragons, which means they missed this week. And I think there was a couple more, but there was question marks on if they were going to have to miss their games or not. But it is what it is. So Naughty Boys, Freddie Lussick, we talked about him last week. His ban came after our show, so he got 4 weeks for his charge down. Anthony Milford has got 2 weeks for probably the greatest play in his career, with a grade 2 dangerous contact, hitting Reece Walsh blindly and without the ball. Sione Katoa from the Sharks got a grade 2 careless high tackle and got a week. And then Josh Aloiai from the Seagulls got a grade 2 dangerous contact for his charge down attempt on Sean Johnson and got a week. So Freddie and Josh, we can probably leave because your question is surrounding that. But what's your take on the others? I think they're fair. I'm surprised that Milford only got 2 because what he did was a brain dead action, and it was against Reece Walsh, who is one of the poster child for the NRL. So I thought they might have come down swiftly on him, but it was funny.
It was a bit of a dog shot for sure. I've had so many angry Broncos fans coming at me on Facebook because I stated how much I enjoyed it. Yeah, apparently that's not the right thing to say. Did anything happen with Clemmer?
I don't believe so. I think he got a fine.
Word.
Yeah, because if we talked about the fines, we'd be here all night because there's so many. If I go to the judiciary now,
I thought Clemmer
Clemmer was bad. Yeah, he. Looking at it here, it says he pleaded guilty for 2 separate careless high tackle charges and got fined $1,000 for both. Ooh. So in last week there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fines. So that's why we don't talk about them, because otherwise we'll be here all night.
That's fair. But if I'm going to make up my own sort of montage of highlights for the year, that Milford shot's making the cut for sure.
Oh yeah, I don't know what he was thinking, but it was very funny to watch. But yeah, so that's all the news we had there. So we'll move into the round, starting with Thursday night with the Roosters ruining our multi, and defeating the Knights 22-20. So
Yep, ruined our multi right off the bat. 4-3 here for the Knights. Jackson Hastings, Bradman Best, Adam Elliott. For the Roosters, Daniel Tupou, Victor Radley, Brandon Smith, and a second one for Daniel Tupou.
yeah, I saw a question from Mark Roberts before we get into it saying, do we know anything about the Lecker incident? There's been no news on if he was going to get in trouble or anything. New South Wales Cup stuff's real hard. They don't really give us all the info. So I did look, but I've seen nothing yet. But yeah, Knights Roosters, I thought it was a great match to kick off the round. But the Roosters did surprise me. I know on our show last week I said with all those players they were missing, surely they can't win away. But they did. They were, I thought they'd struggle, but they were clinical. And with guys like Manu and Tupou stepping up, it really helped them out. A little ill-disciplined, but they just made up for it with their lethal attack, living up to your 2023 expectations at the moment.
Yeah, just a year too late. Yeah, I thought it was a gutsy win for the Roosters without some of their big names. After the Knights scored first early through Jackson Hastings, I liked how hard and direct the Roosters were running, which sort of turned the game. Manu, obviously, with all the run meters in this game, Brandon Smith off the back of it, I was impressed with him. And yeah, unexpected result for me, but yeah, well done to the Roosters. That's a good road win.
And your Knights' thoughts?
Yeah, they were the multi-killer. So I was expecting far more out of them at home against a depleted team. It's been a very up and down year from the Knights so far. We know they have a big run in them like last year, but no evidence of one coming so far this year.
Yeah, I thought they'd be disappointed, but I thought they played reasonably well here. I think Paul mentioned that the Roosters made more errors and had more penalties. So they were doing the right things, but they just weren't converting their opportunities, and their attack does look better with Jackson Hastings, but they need a little bit more. Yep. And they just struggled to contain Manu and that Roosters attack. But more games like this, I think they'll win, the majority of them and climb the ladder. But yeah, it would have been very hard to lose one this close at home. Your player that stood out, I think we both picked the same guy, and I'm going to start trying. I haven't told Paul yet, but I'm going to try to reach out to the NRL and see if NRL Fantasy will sponsor this part of the show, since we're using them almost exclusively. Paul has said that Joseph Manu led the fantasy points. So, Richard, who do we pick?
It had to be him, though. I agree with the fantasy points this time around.
Yeah. I after the past 2 weeks of Paul calling us out, I've been a bit insecure, so I've started taking notes on who I picked. So I picked Joseph Manu. He had 347 running meters. Originally, they said he cracked 370 and broke the record, but then they backtracked and took it away. And he had 11 tackle breaks. He was just a monster out there. So there was no one else you could pick.
I'm not calling you out. I'm enriching the information for the viewers.
You're calling me out. Calling me out for it.
He was also setting up tries in this game as well.
Yeah,
he laid one on for Tupou. He was in everything.
It was hard to go past him. But yeah, great effort for him. First game on Friday, another close one. We had the Storm defeating the Bulldogs 16-14.
Yep, 3 tries apiece for the home team, the Storm. Ryan Peppenhausen, Remus Smith, and Sean Bloor. For the Bulldogs, all 3 tries came from Josh Adokar. Yeah.
Storm had to rely on that last 10 minutes yet again. They weren't bad here, but against tougher opposition, they may have walked away with a loss. They just need to create more scoring opportunities, but I think they'll come sooner rather than later. Their original spine's all back together after having some guys off injured. I know Munster said he's not 100%, but, the Storm, sometimes they can be slow builders where they're under the radar a little bit more than usual. They're getting wins when it counts. which is all you can really ask for. But your take on the Storm?
They're winning, not always in convincing fashion, but as long as they keep filling the win column, they're definitely going to be a top 8 team, as they always are. I do worry come the business end of the season, if they play at this kind of level, it's not going to cut it against a team like the Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, putting it into context, they're playing the Bulldogs, but a win's a win.
Yeah, your take on the Doggies?
I thought it was a pretty good effort from the Dogs. Nearly pulled off an upset in Melbourne, which not many teams do, and they had a few of their team out with injuries as well. But they still aren't the finished product, but I think they're getting better bit by bit.
Yeah, they had slightly more possession in this game than the Storm, but they just made too many errors. I think Paul brought it up. They had 15 errors. They looked dangerous when the passes stuck, though, but just they looked to me like a team that was prone to panicking at times. But I think it's a step in the right direction for a club on the rebuild. However, very disappointed, I'm sure, to lose away in Melbourne, but last year, would you have seen a 2-point loss to Melbourne and Melbourne from this Bulldogs team? I don't think so. So I think definitely.
Bulldogs, I'm sure they beat the Storm last year.
Don't do that to me.
I'm sure they beat the Storm last year.
Probably. I don't know. You know what? Leave me alone. I'm going to check now. Hold on. This is good dead air. This is what we need. Yeah, they did. Round 2, 26-12. They beat Melbourne in Melbourne. So, okay, fine. Hush my mouth. So, I think for the second game in a row, we have picked the same player. So, who do we pick? And Paul will bring it up because I'm sure he got fantasy as well.
Oh, someone from the losing team. Josh Adokar, 3 tries.
I believe he might have got 87 points, Paul, because I think I checked it. Yeah, I went with that. Okay, on the losing side, but he got all 3 tries. He had 5 line breaks. I think he was the biggest attacking threat on the pitch for both sides, so I had to go with him. And we'll just and ah until Paul, pulls his finger out and tells us. I can see he's typing away like a madman in the background. So yes, Josh Adokar led the fantasy points with 87. Sean Bloor was the best for the Storm with 70. So he even got it right, 87. Last game on Friday, Dolphins losing to the Broncos 28-14.
5 tries to 3 here for the Broncos. Xavier Willison, Corey Oates, Reece Walsh, Sal and Cobo times 2. For the Dolphins, Jared Wallace, Jack Bostock, and Jermaine Isako.
Yeah, solid win for the Broncos here with some heavy reliance on their stars, and they'll be happy to get the 2 points. But some big concerns in the performance for me. They had 17 errors and 8 penalties conceded. If they do that against the top 4 side, they'd be in trouble. But you got to take the win when it's on offer, and those are things you can improve on pretty quickly. So, yeah, happy to win when you're playing poorly stats-wise. But what's your take on the Broncos?
I thought it was a good result for the Broncos here in the Battle of Brisbane. They still look a little bit off what they were last year, but I'm pretty confident they're going to be very dangerous when they do eventually get their full-strength team back together on the paddock. They'll be one of the teams to beat.
Yeah, and your thought on the Finns?
I thought they tried their hearts out. Losing Hammer during the game didn't help, and already being without Herbie, and I think Flegler was ruled out before the game. It was always going to be tough, but yeah, and they'll have to pick up a win against the Broncos in the Battle of Brisbane another day.
Yeah, it's almost a rinse and repeat of what I said about the Bulldogs just before for the Dolphins. They had a lot of ball, but they just kept making mistakes. Losing Hammer didn't help their attacking spark, and the injury slide we saw from them last year may be here now. They're a very good team when fully fit, but that depth is still an issue, which you come to expect from a team that's coming in. So and Simon said he thinks the Dolphins missed an opportunity with the Broncos. Broncos have reinforced their dominance as the main team in Brisbane. Yeah, And I think for the third game in a row, we've picked the same player again. Um,
And I think for the third game, it's a pretty obvious choice.
for
Pat
fantasy,
Carrigan.
yeah,
I don't know.
Pat
I don't
Kerrigan.
follow fantasy, Brad.
I
Um,
do. Pat Carrigan's not on my team. I don't think he got okay. Yep. So Pat Carrigan led the fantasy points. Knowing that, that's probably why I put the description in. He led the match for both sides with run meters with 209 run meters and also with tackles with 46. So
yeah,
he churned out those meters and he also kept up the defensive effort.
Yeah, both
yeah,
sides of the
he's
ball. I mean,
outrageous.
yeah, two-way player.
Yeah. So yeah, another great game. It's not the first time I've highlighted him in a Broncos game this year, and I'm sure it won't be the last.
Oh,
Um,
he's so consistent.
yeah. First game on Saturday. Warriors Seagulls 22 all.
Yeah, good game. 4 tries each for the Warriors. Jazz Tavanga, Dallin Watene Zelezniak times 2, and Sean Johnson for the Sea Eagles. Dally Cherry Evans times 2, Tommy Talau, and Ben Trebojevic.
Yeah, so the Warriors put themselves under the pump with silly errors, which they were punished for almost every time. The defense was a bit wishy-washy in the first hour, but I found that it improved tenfold in the last 20 and then in Golden Point. They showed a lot of heart to get back into the contest and try to steal it at the death, but it wasn't to be. Very tense game that hopefully provided a lot of lessons. But yeah, very stressful. And yeah, Paul's brought up the errors 13 to the Warriors, 10 to the Sea Eagles. Just was around for it. There was so many errors in every game.
Mm.
But yeah, a wide range of emotions for me during this game. But what were your thoughts on? We'll go with the Warriors first, since I've picked them first.
Go with the Warriors first. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a terrible start from the boys in this one. Way too many errors. Really stifled what we wanted to be doing, and early on we didn't defend our mistakes particularly well. On the positive side, I love the heart we showed and never say die attitude, and to force Golden Point from 16-0 down when we were playing probably one of our poorest games of the year so far. That's a really encouraging sign.
Yeah, and your thoughts on Manly?
I thought early on they were really ruthless and took full advantage of the mistakes we made and ball we were offering them. Um, yeah, if I'm being critical, from 16-0, they probably should have iced the game. But yeah, when they were on, they looked really good, which we know they can do. Their attacks always, they've got a lot of threats. So yeah, they probably should have iced that game. But if you offered them a draw in New Zealand against the Warriors, they probably would have taken it.
Yeah, I thought they looked like world beaters at times in this game. As I already said, they punished the Warriors when they made errors, and they had a defensive game plan that kept the Warriors quiet. Would be disappointed that they left the door open for a comeback, but I thought there were enough positives from this match to see them as finals contenders down the road. I saw Jacko said the fitness in Golden Point was outstanding while Manny looked cooked. Yeah, I'd say for the first 60, maybe 65 minutes of this game, you could probably even argue the first 80, Manly looked the better side. And then that last 10 minutes in Golden Point, I think it was the opposite. I think the Warriors really looked good in Golden Point. Not good enough to, get the win, but Manly never really looked like they were going to score any points in Golden Point. And with a guy like DCE, who is kind of the king of that arena, when it comes to Golden Point, it had me real nervous. But yeah, it was a hell of a game. My question is kind of around Golden Point, so I won't go too far into,
Yeah.
The purpose of Golden Point. But your player to stand out, I think this is the first time we differ.
Yeah, I think so. I've gone Mitch Barnett. He just came up with a number of massive defensive plays. I think I'm really excited about the prospect of him and James Fisher Harris partnering up next year. I think they have a similar sort of dog in them. They got that dogged attitude.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mitch just to me looks like an Origin player more and more with each week, whether or not that happens.
Yeah, and NRL Fantasy had Sean Johnson and DCE as the leaders with 82 points. I actually went with Chance, so this is the first time neither of us picked a fantasy leader this time. He got 346 meters in this game, which was crazy from him as well. And I think towards the end of the game, when the Warriors really needed to, have things happen, he was really good at just directing the attack going straight up the middle. There was a few guys drifting left and right, and he was just direct, straight up and hard and trying to get through the work quickly to try to march them up the field, which I think they really needed. So I had to go with him. I thought he was tremendous.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Second game on Saturday, we got the Eels defeating the Cowboys 27-20.
Again, another game, 4 tries apiece for the Eels. Joe Offengawe, Joey Lussick, Morgan Harper, and Deja Anasi. For the Cowboys, Jeremiah Nanai, Tom Chester, Val Holmes, and Scott Drinkwater.
Yeah, another close game here with both sides pretty close statistically. The Eels were the more expansive side with their second phase play, which helped them. But in all honesty, goal kicking was the difference here. They got a scare in that last 10 minutes, but kept the pressure on with a nice field goal from Deja Anasi. Still a hard team to predict week to week, as it shows in my picks. I think I said it when we were going with our picks last week. I'm picking the Cowboys, which means the Eels will win, because the Eels always win when I go against them. So your thoughts on the Eels?
I thought it was a great win from Parramatta. I had them penciled in for a loss, the way they've been going without Moses. Shows what I know and shows why we always miss our multis. Yeah, credit to them. They played really well. I thought Asi in the halves really helped. Freed Dylan Brown up to do what he does best and run the ball effectively. And yeah, I thought because of that he looked a lot better this week. And as a whole, the Eels looked a lot better.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Cowboys?
I think finally a game where their lack of defense has come back to bite them. I think the Cowboys need to make some real gains in that area if they're going to challenge any of the big dogs this year.
Yeah, I thought they brought the fight, but just had a shocker at the kicking tee and gave away a few soft penalties, which let the Eels control the match. Disappointing result for them, and kind of adds to our claims last week that they haven't really fronted when given a proper challenge. And it wasn't really too much off the mark, that statement we made. Your player to stand out?
Yeah, I mentioned him just before. I put Dill Brown. He always looks a threat. I love his running game, and when he's able to do it, I think the previous couple of weeks he's almost looked a bit too much to try and fill Moses' shoes when that's not the type of player he is. So I thought he looked good here.
Yeah, and you picked the fantasy leader. I was a bit more bold and went against it. I went with Gutho because, as I said, goal kicking was the difference really, and he was 4 from 4 for the conversions. He missed one penalty though, and I had to back him because I brought him into my fantasy team to replace the hammer this week. So I thought it was a good game from Gutho, and just needs a lot more of those types of games if they want to actually compete. Next game on Saturday, the final game, Sharks defeated the Rabbits 34-22. Probably besides the Warriors Manly game, which was kind of talked about as match of the round, this was probably going to be the one with the most eyeballs due to the Rabbitohs situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one was 6 tries to 4 for the Sharks. Ronaldo Mulitalo with 2, Tig Wilton with 2, Sione Katoa and Blake Brayley. For the Rabbitohs, Michael Cheekham, Tane Milne, Big Tommy Burgess, and Isaiah Tass.
Yeah, I thought the Sharks' attack looked sharp at times here, and they did make scoring look easy in patches. A nice win from them, but I still have question marks over their credentials as finals contenders this season. I think, admittedly, the Rabbits did show improvement, but to let them score 22 points kind of has question marks around their defensive structure. But what's your take on the Sharkies?
Yeah, I thought it was a good result for the Sharks with some really nice moments in the game without being completely ruthless. and putting the Bunnies away heavily, like the Warriors did the week before. Um, Good result nonetheless. They keep winning games, so can't argue.
Yeah, and your take on the Rabbits?
They showed a lot more of this game. The Bunnies they kept coming back into the game, which is a step in the right direction. You know, they didn't just lie down like they did against us. Um, and some of their players really stood up and led the charge and showed heart. I'm thinking of Tommy Burgess in that second half was massive. Really led the way.
Yeah, I did think the Rabbits looked better here. That's not saying much with how they've gone this year, but I think the youngsters that they had to bring in showed some promise, and the team just looked more like a unit, not a bunch of individuals like they kind of were against us the week before. Still a lot of work that needs to be done with some poor defense and those errors still being far too high. Um, I've got on here they may have turned a slight corner. I think I'm going to backtrack on that a bit. They haven't turned a corner, but they're leaning into about to turn, I think. They just need a few more games like this to kind of get some confidence back. But they need wins desperately. So who'd you pick as your player?
I went Mulitalo, a couple of tries, pretty outrageous try assist. I thought, yeah, particularly in that first half, he was looking amazing.
Teague Wilton led the fantasy points, but I actually went with Braden Trindle. They got 6 tries and he had 3 try assists. So he's kind of coming into the playmaker role a bit better. There were some question marks over him at the start of the year. I think he's kind of finding his feet a bit. And if he can work with Nico a bit better, get that combination going, they might get to that next level. So I went with Trindle. Which goes to the first game on Sunday. I don't want to talk about it. Dragons defeating the Tigers 24-12.
4 tries to 2 here for the Dragons. Zach Lomax, Jack Bird, Kyle Flanagan, and Jaden Saw. For the Tigers, Stefano Utui Kamano and Asu Kapoor.
Yeah, Dragons were beaten in a lot of stats in this game, but not in the ones that mattered. Admittedly, the scoreboard. Lomax was on fire, and they found ways to build pressure on the Tigers. But if the Dragons play like this against the Warriors this week, they could be in a lot of trouble. I think a 12-point win should sound convincing. They didn't look convincing to me, but admittedly, that could be a bit of bias on my part. But your take on the Dragons?
Yeah, definitely not perfect from the Dragons, but they're definitely a long way away from the whipping boys. I think that you and I thought they were going to be this year, Brad. Looking at our preseason predictions, they got a lot more fights in them than that. I think they're really going to miss Lomax next year. A lot of good that they've done this year is coming. Part of it's coming from him. Yeah, absolutely. So.
Lock in the spoon for 2025.
Yeah, maybe next year's finally your year.
And your take on the poor old Tigers?
Yeah, not a great day out from the Tigers. I'm hoping the return of Lockie Galvin this week sparks them into life. Dropping 2 points against the Dragons at home is a game the Tigers need to be winning if they're a team that's starting to turn a corner, like I thought they might be, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, before I go into my Tigers thing, this was basically one of the only games I had penciled in before the season started that the Tigers would win. So I thought this would be the one they could get. But they did what they could in this game. They were just lacking that attacking spark, which will come back with Galvin returning. And they just didn't make the most of their opportunities, but they've shown a lot of growth in the short time that Benji's been in charge. So I think there's a lot of good signs for the future. It was just unfortunate. I think this is a game they really could have taken. And yeah, Simon said very disappointed in the Tigers, probably not likely to pick them again for the future. Yeah, there's one when you finally decide to back them and then they do this, you're like, but yeah, I think there's definitely some more wins in their future this year.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, and your player to stand out, I think we're back on track picking the same guy.
Yeah, Lomax. Brad's been
Yeah.
reading from my notes again.
Yeah. I love how I can do that when you don't write them until after I've done mine, but it's cool. Jaden Stewart led the fantasy points, but yeah, I went with Lomax as well. Effectively, if Lomax isn't doing what he's doing out there, the Dragons have a lot less opportunities to add points. Ben Hunt and all that do stuff too, obviously, but
the fantasy points for Sewer is a good one, a good indication too. I thought Sewer was really good.
Yeah. But yeah, Zach Lomax, he's definitely in the conversation for Winger of the Year at the moment, which I'm sure he's loving hearing. But yeah, I thought he was fantastic, and he is the guy. I know I joked about it earlier. He is the one for us to have to watch out for this week.
You think he would kick up a fuss if they picked him on the wing for New South Wales?
Of course not. It's ridiculous. He'll play winger for New South Wales or Australia if they ask, but in Clubland he doesn't want to. But yeah, going to the last game, another golden pointer. Raiders defeating the Titans 21-20.
Yep, and it was 4-3. Actually, the losing team had more tries here. For the Raiders, James Schiller, Hudson Young. James Schiller got 2, actually. So they were the 3 tries for the Raiders. 4 tries for the Titans. Jermaine Jolliffe, Harley Smith-Shields, and Cam Pereira grabbed 2 right near the end to force golden point.
Yeah, Raiders started stronger of the two clubs here, but I thought they lacked the killer instinct to run away with the contest, left the door open for a Titans comeback, but didn't panic when the match went into golden point, which I thought Jamal Fogarty might have some flashbacks of last year when they crumbled in golden point against the Warriors, but no, they held their nerve. It did look like we were going to be getting another draw, but yeah, the Raiders kept their heads, got the ball to Fogarty, who iced his chance. Definitely not the biggest win to write home about, but a win's a win, as they say. So, yeah, I'm sure they're very rapt to walk away with this one and not be the first team to lose to the Titans.
And look, you talked about earlier in one of the other games that kicking posts was a big thing here. And again, kicking posts. Jamal Fogarty, 100% from kicking at posts, whereas both Jaden Campbell and Brian Kelly for the Titans both are only 50%. Which is, that's not this level.
Yeah, poor Brian Kelly. He's not used to doing it, Paul, in his defense. But yeah, your thoughts on the Raiders, Richie?
Yeah, I thought they made a good start, and I thought they were going to go on with it, but I felt like the Green Machine lacked killer instinct in this one. Let the Titans stay in the match. You spoke about that game last year in Golden Point where Jamal Fogarty crumbled. I think he's obviously learnt a lot. His kicking game's come on a lot this year, and he got one chance. Credit to Ethan Strange for making a break in Golden Point and getting them into field position. And yeah, Jamal Fogarty iced his chance.
Yeah, fantastic run from Strange for such a youngster in such a pivotal part of the game. Your take on the Titans?
Yeah, I've got to give credit to them. This was by far their best effort this year. Not saying a lot, I know. They actually showed some backbone in defence and a couple of big plays late in the game, forced the game into golden point. Brian Kelly in particular, he went after that game towards the end and kicked his first ever conversion in his career too, from the sideline to force golden point. Yeah, unfortunately, they lack somebody with field goal kicking ability to finish the game off. They did get a couple of decent enough chances in Golden Point, but yeah, they just looked like they didn't have anybody who could do the job.
Yeah, I think it would have been a different story if Campbell was still out there. But yeah, that's just footy, isn't it? So yeah, I did feel for the Titans here. I was actually writing this game going, I'm going to get this wrong if the Titans win, but I really want to see them win. I think they're really doing a lot out there. It was definitely their best performance of the season. Again, not saying much. And they're, so close to nabbing that first win. That's a real monkey on their back. The fact they haven't won yet, they'll want to get that out of the way. Showed great heart, but they still struggle at times with that defensive structure. But I think Dez is getting through to them slowly. Big credit, as you already said, to Brian Kelly for nailing the must-win or must-get conversion to force Golden Point, especially after he had an absolute shocker with his first attempt. But yeah, I thought they did well in Golden Point to try to stop the Raiders, but it was just that little mind slip for a few seconds for Strange to do what he did, and that kind of broke them. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see the Titans go on any historic run, but I think this is definitely showing that they're at least going to bring a fighting spirit. And when you do that, you're always a chance. So hopefully we get to talk about a couple of wins for the Titans, as long as it's not Anzac Day. Your player to stand out, Paul has said Jamal Fogarty led the fantasy points with 82, which was second highest for the round.
Yeah, I didn't go that way. I went Ethan Strange. Fogarty was very good, no doubt. Ethan Strange, just for a young guy, how old is he, Brad? Has he cracked 20 yet?
I think he's 19.
I think he's 19. He just comes up with a number of eye-catching plays and looks dangerous. And he's just, as we said earlier, he's just recommitted to the Raiders as well. So big future for him.
Yep, he's 19. He turns 20 on the 16th of August.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I went with Jamal Fogarty. I thought, he was accurate at the boot. Iced that Golden Point win for them. Thought it was a fantastic showing for him. And I'm going to toot my own horn here. He was second highest in the fantasy points. Him and Sean. Sean was the highest, and they're my halves team in my fantasy. So they really helped me out of a hole. A couple of players.
Sean's an 82 as well.
Oh, 82. Who got 87? Oh, Josh Adokar.
So Josh Adokar led the way with 87, whereas Sean, Dylan Cherry Evans, and Jamal Fogarty all got 82.
Yeah, my two halves scoring 82 each isn't a bad day at the office. But yeah, fantastic game to end the round. So with that, we'll go on to, I think it's probably the tips that you're going to bring up. There it is. For those of you that can't see it, Shuddy FC is still at the top with 44. He used his Joker this week and got 12. So that really helped him out. ACT Hellcat, 4 points behind in second place at 40. Then me at 30, at third place with 35. Rocking Horse Road is fourth with 33. And Richie, you're on 30 points, fifth. You're slowly climbing. Simon's down at eighth on 29 points. Yet to use a Joker round yet, though. So I think we're going to see some movement from Simon when those come into play. And yeah, a few of the others, it's some good scores down the bottom too. I'm trying to work out if that's all away games because there were a few away teams that won this week. But yeah, very happy that we're still in the talk. We're not getting completely shown up as I feared when we started. And Simons said last week was a bad round for him. Hopefully the Joker works out for him this week. But yeah, so there'll be some moving and shaking as it goes on. But Paul, if you want to bring up the ladder for us. I got top 8 last week, so it's your turn this week, Richie.
Top 8 is as follows. Cronulla Sharks are now first place. Melbourne in second. Canberra Raiders in third. Cowboys in fourth. Dolphins in fifth. Penrith moved up to sixth. And Warriors and Manly have both dropped to seventh and eighth.
Yep, and then for the bottom 9, we've got the Roosters up to 9th on 6 points. Broncos at 10th on 6 points as well. Para 11th and Tigers 12th. And Dragons 13th, all of them on 6 points. Then we've got the Knights in 14th place and the Bulldogs in 15th, both on 4 points. And then rounding it out, we've got the Titans and Rabbits 16th and 17th, both on 2 points. Rabbitohs know they get some points this week. They'll go up to 4 because they've got a bye. But yeah, not too surprising. Going to say like the loss. I talked about the Las Vegas, about how the teams are going well. 2 of the teams that were in Vegas are in the top 8. 2 are still in the bottom when you'd expect all 4 to be in the top 8. So is that a flow on? I know there's been a lot of injuries as well, but I think the biggest thing before we move on will be that draw. I think that draw giving the Eagles and the Warriors that 1 point can kind of really be a difference maker on the ladder. I know you'd rather get the 2 points, but it takes points differential conversation away. So that can either make or break their season. We'll see how it goes as the season rolls on. But yeah, so that's the ladder. Anything you want to add, Paul, before we go into questions?
I was going to ask you on that question. Yeah, if you're looking at that ladder, who out that top 8 you're expecting to drop out? I mean, obviously the Dolphins. Who else do you think is long? It's still relatively early days, but with sort of 6 rounds gone. But yeah, which one of those teams do you think are likely to drop away during the season?
For me, Dolphins and Cowboys, I was expecting not be in the 8, so I'm going to pick them. Raiders could slide too, potentially. Sharks will fall apart at some point.
What?
Yeah, Sharks are flat track bullies. I was riding high on them last year, and they burnt me. So they're dead to me, Paul.
One whole loss all season. So, Richie, which ones do you think we're going to be sliding out?
I think Dolphins for sure. I see Broncos as one that'll climb. So, I kind of agree with Brad. Potentially Cowboys, and I don't see Raiders staying a top 4 team. So I think they'll slide, whether or not out of the 8. I don't know, but I think Dolphins' depth might see them drop out of the 8.
I think the Raiders are showing enough to stay in the 8 at least.
Yeah, you're looking at the bottom 9, and you're kind of like, obviously Broncos going to come back, and then the Roosters and Eels are going to be sort of bouncing around that, kind of bouncing around the kind of the are they, aren't they? With you could say with a couple of teams from that top 8 bouncing around as well. But you look at the rest of them, you go Tigers, Dragons, Knights, Bulldogs, Titans, and Rabbits with current record. Yeah, that kind of crowd don't look like top 8 kind of contenders.
Yeah.
So it's starting. So yeah, it's still early days, but starting to settle down into a kind of as that top 8. It's not wildly wrong there as to who'll be in the kind of finals picture.
Yeah. So did anyone have any questions, or did we kind of pick them all up as we went?
I think I picked them all up as we went. I guess my only question would be for you is our player heading over to Japan. Do you think he'll have a successful season there, or do you think it's going to be a bit of a bust playing over there?
He'll crush it. I could go over and have a great season in Japan, Paul.
You get sort of and just be someone who everyone runs around, sure, but not.
I don't know if you've seen the brand of rugby they play over there, Brad. It's pretty free flowing, mate.
I can only speak from the time I went to Japan and I got to play rugby and I crushed it. So I'm going on that experience when I was 11 years old.
As long as they don't drop the ball and give you opportunities to scrummage, I think you're in a bit of a problem there. But anyway. But you think you'll have a good season over there. Okay, cool.
I think it'll be fine. Yeah. It's hard to sack, but he's got enough talent. And it's not like he's going and trying to be a first 5 or like a second 5 or anything over there. I think he's going to be a fullback or something. Fullback does do a lot of kicking in rugby union though. And we haven't seen that from him. But yeah, I haven't heard the position. But if anyone can do it, Fozzie can, I'm sure. You know, he did wonders for Roger.
I'll let you ask each other your questions.
All right. We'll go with your one first, Richie.
Yeah, okay. The rugby league community has been really divided over the Sean Johnson penalty from the weekend. Do you think the game has gone over the top with that rule, and now kick pressure is pointless altogether? We've seen Josh Aloiai penalised and suspended for minimal contact, and Freddie Lussick rubbed out for a month due to this.
So I said last week when we talked about Freddie Lussick that I thought it was a rubbish call. I'm not going to be a biased one-eyed Warriors fan and say it was the right call. if I thought Freddie's was a bad call, I think LIA's is a bad call. I've listened. There's been a lot of talk about it. I stopped listening to some of the people that I don't think are that bright, like Braith and Astor and whatnot. And believe it or not, this sounds very counterintuitive. I listened to Willie Mason. That kind of sounds very silly after I said I'd stop listening to the stupid ones. But Willie was actually quite onto it. He said, this is technically the rules, so it is a penalty. And he said, you just can't contact the leg. He said, like LIA situation, if LIA was half a meter to the left, he puts the pressure on the kick, doesn't touch anything. It's all play. And said, at that time of the game when you're tired, those are just silly mistakes that you make. So his point, though, was that kick pressure still exists. It's just, I mean, you look at against the Storm, Mitch Barnett charging down that kick. He successfully charged down the kick. It didn't work out in the Warriors' favor, but he didn't hit the leg. He did everything else right. It was the perfect charge down, just no regather. So it is still there. I think the only questionable one I had, we didn't even talk about it, was the kick disruptor. I think that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
that is
horrible.
Worse. So like that was probably, I think, what started all of this, because you're basically looking that you can't do a charge down in case you accidentally touch the player. You can't jump in the air and try to contest the ball, because if you miss the ball, your class is a disruptor and you get penalized. So it was more like they seem to be taking everything away defensively from kick chase, which is fine, because as a Warriors fan, that's not our game. We kind of wait till they catch it and then tackle them. We don't compete a lot in the air anymore. But yeah, I think it might be a bit over the top, but I guess, does your opinion change if LEA did what he did and Sean breaks his leg and he's out? I know we were saying you can't punish people for the injury, but I guess they're trying to stop something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was more Willie Mason as a forward that would be in that situation, how he explained it in his eyes, how you can still apply pressure without touching them in the leg and breaking this rule, which is being enforced a lot more.
Well, there's a couple ways to look at it. The LOA one, he made minimal contact, and I don't think he attacked the legs. They call it attacking the legs, but he did not.
Yeah.
Like what Steve Price used to do was attacking the legs. He would cannonball in towards the kicker back in the day, and I think that was a catalyst for this rule. LOA is more just wound up in Sean Johnson's follow-through space, and if Sean's leg has collected him, I guess what you're saying is you just got to keep out of that space, out of that zone. You know, don't put yourself in that space where you might be in their follow-through, because you're opening yourself up to penalties.
Yeah, and like I do think it's a bit over the top. It's that black and white conversation we had. I think there is grey involved that needs to be put in. And Simon's also said Willie Mason hasn't always been the best judge of things, 100%. But this one here, I could get his point of view, because they're talking to a lot of the halves of the past, and they're kind of the opinion of we weren't protected like this in our day, so why should they? Where he's looking at it more as a front rower who is generally the ones charging it. So I took his opinion on board more than like Braith and Astor, who was like, why it's me? But his opinion, sorry, I know you're jumping in, Paul. And Astor's opinion was a complete 180 from last week, because he was basically asking for the ripping up of Freddie Lussett's contract for what he did, because Lachlan Elliott is a player that he is a player agent for. So he's got some buy-in on that, where this week he was like, Sean should get his contract ripped up for his Oscar-worthy performance of an injury.
Quite the backflip in opinion, isn't it?
Yeah, but he got me. I thought Sean was really hurt, and then I quickly saw him run up and do the penalty. So it was convincing to the people in the crowd too.
Look, I mean, it's one of these situations where the player being hit is totally defenseless, right? They're whereas
they're kicking. That's an attack.
They're kicking the ball, not kicking the player, right? So I mean, it's a situation that they can't brace themselves and all that kind of stuff. So you've got to protect them from being touched, because it is a very vulnerable situation, and we're talking when it goes wrong, it's career ending.
Yeah.
So
What if they fake the kick and then run?
Then it's brilliant.
Well, if they start doing that on a regular basis, then
Yeah.
then that's going to be a problem. It's a bit like in NFL, when you have your quarterback faking a slide, and then he keeps running, and you're just like, mate, if you keep doing that, then you deserve
You deserve to get hit.
needs to be removed. You deserve to be hit late, because they don't know what you're going to do. If you're going to, the whole point of the slide is, okay, we'll leave you alone. We won't smash you. So again, if they start doing that, then sorry, then it's open season.
Sliding's for cowards anyway.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but if they start doing lots of dummy kicks, then I say it's going to become open season, because that's. But I don't see that as being. Maybe I don't watch much NRL, but I don't see that as being a regular thing as much in NRL, really, from the games I've seen.
Yeah, and I think it might have been Paul Kent, Richie. He said on 360 when they were talking about it, because he was like, it's the rules. But he said, what LA, everyone's raging about the fact LA got a week, but this is probably more like a warning to the players in general. So it's probably being used more as this is what we expect, so don't do this. We'll see if it works. We'll see if there's a string of them this week or not. But yeah, I don't think it's answering going on 20 minutes before I answered your question. I don't think kick pressure is pointless, but yeah, I think they have gone over the top, but I think they just want to try to stamp it out. It didn't work in our favor last week. It worked in our favor this week. So yeah, what can you do? My question for you, it's more stealing from 360 and some of the horrible takes they sometimes have. There was a lot of discussion about during the week about Golden Point to either end or become a golden try or change the point scoring system. What do you think about it? Before I go to you, Buzz was the one who brought this up, because he said Golden Point is boring. He said it's boring. No one takes risks. Then he said they should make it golden try, which doesn't mean that the risks are going to come in, because you're going to do the same one else. But sitting in that game, you watching at home in Golden Point, I can't say I was sitting there bored.
I was not bored at all.
I was on the edge of my seat watching everything they did. But yeah, so what do you think? Do you think Golden Point should end? Should they change it?
I'm never bored in a Golden Point situation. That's just me. I think it adds a layer of tension that the game could finish at any time, and any little mistake could be your undoing. So from that point of view, I enjoy it. I don't see any need to change anything to golden try. I think you either stay as Golden Point or just scrap it all together and just have a draw.
Yeah, I saw one. It might have been Gould, which I don't like rubbishing him on here at times, but he was kind of saying he wanted to see the team that lost in Golden Point still get a point, which I don't want to see ever come into it. I know Paul's listening, but giving points for nothing or for losing is a rugby union thing. So I don't want to have that. I don't want to see a team get rewarded because they lost. Technically, they lost in Golden Point, so you could say they were drawn at the 480. But because of Golden Point, the game isn't 80 minutes; it's longer. And yeah, if you're good enough, you're either going to win in Golden Point or stop the other team and get the draw and get that point anyway. So leave it as is. If we'd lost in Golden Point, maybe my opinion would change, but we didn't. But yeah, that's my take on it as well. So Buzz just needs to retire. Poor guy.
Yeah, on that I agree.
Yeah. And yeah, Simon said Golden Point's fine. On this, the team, it gives the teams the opportunity to win. And if you can't, you either lose or you get the draw, which is what we saw in 2 games this week. Warriors and Seagulls weren't good enough to get the win, so they got that 1 point. And the Raiders, did what they could, got the win, and Titans went home empty-handed. Which was the thing Gould said. Like, they go home with no points after forcing golden point, but a team that loses by 60 also gets no points. But a team that loses by 60 and a team that loses by 1 still get no points if it doesn't go to golden point. So I see that argument completely pointless. But he's known a lot more than I will ever learn, so I'll let him have his opinion. But we'll move on to round 7, starting with our team namings for the Warriors Dragons. My game of the year, the game that's always on my calendar.
It's the Brad Inger Cup.
Yeah, the Inger Cup. Give me your Warriors team.
The Warriors lineup is as follows: Chance Nicol-Klustad, number 1, Dylan Watene-Zelezniak, Marcelo Montoya on the wings, Rocco Berry and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in the centres, Tamaida Martin and Sean Johnson are your halves. Forward pack is Adam Fanua-Blake, Wade Egan, Mitch Barnett, Jackson Ford, Kurt Capewell, Tohu Harris, and interchange bench. Brad's going to love this: Chanel Harris-Tavita, Tom Ale, Jacob Laban, and Adam Pompey.
Adam Pompey, the dragon of the Warriors. We talked about it after it came out. I had quite a visual reaction straight away. I think my message to you and Ruin Hammer as soon as the team was announced was Webby's taking the piss. I expect that 17 to change. I expect Zion Mayu to come in and replace Pompey. I know I've had opinions on Adam Pompey in the past. I think he showed a lot of improvement last year. But he is not the player you need on the bench in this situation with all the forwards out. So I think it's Webby's way of trying to take pressure off Zion's debut by not having him there, but it's the most blatant, obvious one. I'll be very shocked if Adam Pompey stays there. But you at least want to make it a bit mysterious and put a player that can play in the forwards there instead. But yeah, they don't really have a lot of those to pick from. But it could have been more. I don't know. I'm very happy with the team. 1 to 13 is the same as you want, and I'm happy with 14 to 16. I just want to see Zion come in. He needs some experience. I've got a lot of high hopes on him for his future. And if there's any game to bring him in, it's against, one of the worst teams ever to exist in the Dragons. So it's the perfect time to blood him. But speaking of which, the Dragons team, we've got Tyrell Sloan at fullback. We've got Ravalava and Tuipulotu on the wings. Moses Sully is at centre. Zach Lomax has finally got his wish, and he's back in centres as well. Then we've got Kyle Flanagan, Ben Hunt in the halves. Front row is Francis Molo, Jacob Little, and Harmon Silly. In second row, we've got Raymond Faitala Mariner and Jaden Sewer. And then 13, we've got Tom Eisenhuth. With the bench, Jesse Marsh, Blake Morey, Jack DeBellin, Blake Lowry. I spelt that wrong. Jack DeBellin and my old man crush, Ben Murdoch-Masilla at 17. So it's not a bad team for the Dragons. I just don't see them having enough. If the Warriors do what they've been doing well this year, they should canter away with this, in my opinion. If those errors that we saw last week come into play, that's when I think the Dragons may have a shot at getting this win. And, besides the past few years, the Dragons really loved beating the Warriors at Wynn Stadium. But I think the Warriors have turned the corner there. But who did you pick in this game? Did you go with the Dragons to break my heart, or?
Well, by the last couple of years, the Dragons have liked to beat us wherever.
Yeah.
But no, I've gone the Warriors. I feel like obviously the game's not won on paper, but on paper we have the superior team 1 through 17. I think the Dragons lineup is solid enough 1 through 13, but definitely as a whole we've got the stronger squad and should be winning games like this.
Yeah. If the Warriors don't win this game, Paul, there probably won't be a show next week. Just FYI. I don't know if I could have to talk about the Warriors losing to the Dragons. I'll do it. I'll do it for you if I have to, but we might have to get a super sub in. Maybe the standoff with Richie and Paul. But yeah, we'll go into the rest of the round and go through who we picked. So Thursday night, we've got the Roosters Storm. I've actually gone with the Roosters here. I went against them last week. This one was a flip a coin. I basically just went with hometown advantage.
Yeah, same, definite flip of the coin. I've gone Roosters with no confidence, I might add.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like the Storm have been getting away with quite a few close games, and the Roosters looked quite good last week.
Yeah. Then first game on Friday is Dragons Warriors. We've both gone Warriors. Second game on Friday is Eels Dolphins. I've gone for the Eels, which probably means the Dolphins are going to get a win here. And Paul has decided not to include the. He's cheating. He's cheating it.
Fair enough, Paul.
Fair enough, Paul. It's your money we're blowing every week, so.
Yeah, I've gone Eels as well, Brad. I think the Dolphins just missing a few too many key players.
Yeah. And Simon said the Warriors-Dragons game will be free to air TV on Sky Open this Friday as well, which is great. Next game, or the first game on Saturday, is Panthers-Tigers. I don't think you have to worry about risking picking the Tigers again this week. I've gone with the Panthers.
You would have said that last year in this fixture as well, and what happened?
Yeah, and what happened? The Tigers, I say it every week almost, the Tigers beat the Panthers last year. That one I remember, not the Bulldogs beating the Storm.
Yeah, so the Panthers are the shortest odds of the weekend, $1.19.
Right, Paul, throw all the money on the Tigers. We're going to get it. Tigers ambush.
Richie, what are you going to do? Which way are you going?
I'm going Panthers.
Panthers as well, yeah.
It's in the multi.
Yeah. Second game on Saturday, we've got Titans Seagulls. I've gone with Seagulls. Titans showed some promise, but I don't think they're going to be good enough to go up against the Seagulls, who are kind of on a roll now. And I think they'll want a big bounce back after letting that game slip in the draw last week.
Yeah, agreed. Manly.
Could be a big multi this week, Paul. Then we've got the last game on Saturday, Broncos-Raiders. I've gone with Broncos. I think the Raiders look good, but I think the Broncos, especially playing at home, I think they've got to have the edge here.
Again, I think the Raiders beat the Broncos last year. But
yeah, we're talking about this year. We're talking about this year, Richie.
Yeah, I know, but it can happen. This is why
we
never get multis.
Okay, do the Broncos have players back from injury or not?
They do. Well, they got their big ones that they needed. Barb Payne Haas came back last week, so they got a run under their belt.
Okay. No, they're still missing Reynolds, though, aren't they?
They are still missing Reynolds, but they got Reece Walsh. That's all that matters. He's the only player on their team.
Back, then I'll include it in the multi. If they haven't got their players back, then I was going to say you guys are smoking.
They still don't have their halfback, but they've got their fullback.
Okay.
They've got Pretty Boy back.
Yeah.
Picking Broncos.
Yeah. And then the final game. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. Now we're on to Sunday. Bulldogs Knights. I've gone with the Knights. That one could be a tight one too. But, yeah, I think the Knights will have the edge, potentially.
I'm going the other way. I'm going the other way. Yeah.
Doggies.
Bulldogs.
Thank God for that, because I wasn't going to include this one either. You don't go with the bloody away team in a close one.
I do all the time. And then the last game, Sharks Cowboys.
I just want to point out, okay, the Knights record this season, they're 2-2 at home. They're 0-2 away. They've not won away. So
got to get an away win at some point, Paul.
The Bulldogs. Okay, the Bulldogs have played 2 home games, won both of them. So go Richie. Got this one.
Got to have a loss at home as well at some point. Final game, Sharks Cowboys. I've gone with the Sharks. Sharks at home. I think their attack looked okay. Cowboys, I'm still questionable about their defense and about their credentials as a top 8 team. So I've gone with the Sharks.
Yeah, I've gone with the Sharks to win the Chad Townsend Cup here.
Yeah. So what's our multi looking like, Paul?
So the multi has got the Warriors beating the Dragons, the Eels beating the Dolphins, the Panthers over the Tigers, the Sea Eagles over the Titans, the Broncos over the Raiders, and the Sharks over the Cowboys. Our $2 stake will return $15.20, or as we all know, it'll just go back to let's go to the TAB because we've not had one of these work yet.
And yeah, Simon said he trusts Ricky. He's going to put the fighting spirit into the Raiders. They had a lack of it last week. So yeah, that is the NRL this week. So before we go, Jacko, if Jacko's still here, we'll let you go. I know Ruin Ham has probably already started, so he's probably already over there. But we'll go into Super League quickly. There was no round because of Challenge Cup. We had the Challenge Cup quarterfinals. An upset or two were in here, mate. I don't know if you saw the scores that I put down, but
Warrington.
Yeah, Hull KR defeated Lee 26-14. Uddersfield defeated Catalans 34-6. That was a big upset. Wigan did what they do in Challenge Cup. They beat Castleford 60-6. And then Warrington upset St. Helens, defeating them 31-8. So the semi-finals, yeah,
Sammy Burgess.
what a hell of a run in his debut year as a coach. We're back to Super League next week, but the semi-finals for Challenge Cup are the 18th and 19th of May. And Simon said Uddersfield won in France. That added to the upset as well. So we've got Hull KR versus Wigan and Uddersfield versus Warrington. I'm going to go a Wigan-Warrington final. That's what I'm picking. Could be completely wrong. If you'd asked me last week, I would have said that it would have been a Wigan-St. Helens final, like I kind of do.
No, I'm with you. Wigan-Warrington, I think.
Yeah. And then round 8 of Super League is off this week. We've got Leeds versus Uddersfield, Wigan versus Castleford, St. Helens versus Hull FC, London versus Salford, Warrington versus Lee, and Catalans versus Hull KR. So Wigan gets Castleford 2 weeks in a row. So, that will be interesting. Hopefully there's some good games in there. But yeah, anything else you guys want to add before we go and let everyone log off for the night?
No, not really, mate. Thanks everybody for the chat. Let's hope we get a W this week, and I'll go keep celebrating the signing of James Fisher-Harris.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on the Standoff with Brad and Richie for your weekly update on Rugby League. Tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. On Facebook or YouTube, or at your convenience on iHeartRadio or Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers for joining me again, Richie, and cheers for your help in the background, Paul. And good night, everyone.